Look, man, whether you want to believe it or not, the universe is constantly communicating with you on a deeper subconscious level. So in order for you to truly pick up on the lessons it's trying to teach, you first must come to understand the patterns behind its speech.
Think of a pentagram, Donald. Now put another inside, a third, and a fourth. No pencil is sharp enough to draw as fine as you can think, and no paper large enough to hold your imagination. In fact, it is only in the mind that we can conceive infinity. Mathematical thinking has opened the doors to the exciting adventures of science.
I'll be doggone. I've never seen so many doors before.
Each discovery leads to many others, an endless chain.
What's the matter with these doors? Hey! These doors won't open. They're locked.
Of course they are locked. These are the doors of the future, and the key is...
Mathematics.
Right. Mathematics. The boundless treasures of science are locked behind those doors. In time, they will be opened by the curious and inquiring minds of future generations. In the words of Galileo, mathematics is the alphabet with which God has written the universe.
Signs and symbols rule the world. This is something that all ancient civilizations and secret societies came to realize on their quest to uncovering the hidden secrets of life, as they understood that the universe speaks softly, and its messages can only be deciphered by studying the rhythmic patterns of its signs, synchronicities, and of course sacred geometry, aka the underlying architecture of our world, where science and spirituality have come to meet to form the essential framework of our reality, organizing all matter from the growth of plants, the proportions of our bodies, the orbit of the planets, as well as the structure of sound itself, weaving them all together into an intricate design that gives us deeper insights into the divine connection between everything in existence, becoming a topic of deep importance in the ancient world for the developmental history of mankind, as it was believed that the book of life cannot be understood unless one first learns to comprehend the language and read the letters in which it is composed, the language of triangles, circles, and other geometric figures. So enough said, man. Call me Rosetta Stone, cause your boy's about to break this down real quick like a brick for y'all, bringing it all the way back to the roots of sacred geometry originating from ancient Egypt and Mesopotamian societies, where the spiritual initiates of these cultures came to the understanding that there is far more to life than what meets the eyes, realizing there exists a whole metaphysical matrix composed of energy, frequency, and vibration, which lie beyond the boundaries and barriers limited by our 5 physical senses, acting as a primordial source and essential fabric that makes up our reality, materializing everything within this world through specific shapes and geometric figures, which come to form a cosmic code or infinite grid that expands onto infinity. And this ideology can also be seen in the jeweled net of Indra found within the teachings of Hindu mythology as well as Buddhism, a celestial web cast from the top of Mount Meru, aka the axis where heaven and earth come to meet, that extends endlessly in all directions across the entire universe, with gems placed in each and every one of its nodal points. Now these gems had a unique quality to them where they would reflect the appearance of all the other ones in itself, symbolizing how all is one and one is all, as each glimmering jewel represented the eternal soul or Atman that is inherently interconnected with everything else around it. But nevertheless, this story can be further expanded upon by the teachings of the ancient Egyptians, who believed that those who learn how to tap into the power of this net would have the necessary knowledge and wisdom needed to guide their soul in the afterlife and transcend beyond this metaphysical net of reincarnation, which sounds quite familiar to the fractalized journey one is sent on during a psychedelic DMT trip, aka the spirit molecule produced by the pineal gland or third eye that is released shortly after one's death. And now, funny enough, if you look a little bit closer, you'll see that the gods of ancient Egypt were actually referred to as netters or masters of the net, as they held the immortal capability to move back and forth through the holographic nature of reality, emphasizing the importance of the role sacred geometry plays within this cosmic blueprint of life. And this idea has carried on over to some of the most prominent secret societies seen today, where groups like the Freemasons have referred to God as the great geometer of the universe, symbolized by the capital G seen in the emblem of their logos that also stands for the generative principle, serving as an ode to the deeply occulted information hidden within these sacred signs and symbols. So as you can clearly see, we're talking about some real deal shit, my boy.
They used to meet in secret to discuss their mathematical discoveries. Only members were allowed to attend. They had a secret emblem, the pentagram.
But setting all that aside, in order for us to get a better understanding of what all this really is, we first must start off with how this web was created, which leads us over to the book of Genesis written in the Old Testament of the Bible, where the whole process of how everything was originally created within this world is described in full detail. Yet for most people out there who study this story stuck at just the surface level, subtle cues and hints of the esoteric wisdom woven within each line are completely missed, causing them to never grasp the bigger picture behind these teachings. Starting off with the very first statement written in Genesis, which is the Hebrew word bereshit, or in the beginning. But like I said, if we take a deeper look into the details, we can see that this word can be further broken down to uncover a much different meaning behind it, translating to as God creates the net, hinting back at the underlying energy matrix previously mentioned in ancient Egypt, India, and other Eastern traditions, but this time manifesting itself in the form of the 22 flame letters of the Hebrew alphabet, usually depicted in the shape of a circle or wheel that can have a maximum of 231 lines drawn in between each letter, which adds up to the number 6, symbolic of the 6 days of creation that will come forth from it. Now the next hint we receive is found within the subsequent verses that follow, where it is said that the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and then God said, "Let there be light," clearly pointing out how movement came before light. So when we come back to the original circle or net that was created and actually move its starting point equally across its face, we form a geometrical figure known as the Vesica Pisces, which contains an opening within the overlap of the two circles that mimics the same structure of the human eye, aka the gateway to the soul and what allows us to pick up and interpret light. Keeping it moving, a new circle is formed at the intersection of the previous one before, creating the form of the Holy Trinity after the third motion. And now with the fourth motion, we get exactly half of the structure that is being built, symbolic of how half of creation was completed after the fourth day of Genesis. But continuing on, this formula keeps on rolling until we reach the 6th position, where everything comes all together to form the seed of life, a sacred geometrical figure also referred to as the Genesis pattern, which, what do you know, is actually the same sequence seen under a microscope during the process of cellular division, further showing us how sacred geometry is the basic framework of all life.
All nature's works have a mathematical logic, and her patterns are limitless.
But nevertheless, this pattern continues to evolve, forming outer layers around the seed of life that creates what is known as the egg of life, the three-dimensional shape of a multicellular embryo during its first hours of existence, which contains the entire genetic blueprint of an organism's physical makeup, from its height, hair, eyes, and so forth. Now after a third layer is formed, we get the flower of life, a shape that has been universally revered by almost every single spiritual tradition of time, as it contained another secret geometrical shape that was said to be the foundational building block of the universe, because out of the flower of life blooms the fruit of life, a feminine shape with curved dimensions to its form. But once a masculine essence is added into the mix with its straight lines and precise edges, we get a totally different outcome, creating the shape commonly referred to as Metatron's cube, named after the archangel Metatron mentioned in Jewish, Christian, and Islamic doctrines, where he's portrayed as a faithful servant and scribe of God assigned to be the guardian of the universe's holy secrets. us, as it contains the core components of all creation, aka the 5 Platonic solids, discovered by the infamous ancient Greek philosopher Mr. Plato himself, who was quoted saying that the study of geometry will draw the soul towards truth and create the spirit of philosophy, emphasizing the pillar of importance it played within his school of thought, which can be clearly seen in the sign placed above the doorway to the entrance of his academy that read, "Let no one ignorant of geometry enter." So even though I barely passed high school geometry, I should still be able to go, right?
You stupid.
They're not.
What's 9 plus 10?
21.
But to trace this back even further, we can follow the footsteps left by the influence of the father of numbers, aka Pythagoras, a polymath who is revered for his unparalleled wisdom in the field of science and mathematics, who funny enough was actually taught all of this during his time studying under the masters of the mystery schools of ancient Egypt, bringing us all the way back like a boomerang as we come full circle. But nevertheless, these 5 Platonic solids were seen as a foundation for all physical matter, with each one of them representing a natural elemental force, where the cube symbolized earth, the octahedron symbolized air, the tetrahedron symbolized fire, the icosahedron symbolized water, and the dodecahedron symbolizing ether, also referred to as prana, chi, or akash in other parts of the world. Now, with this knowledge and information, these ancient civilizations started to implement sacred geometry into their day-to-day lives, making it a part of their music, artwork, architecture, as well as religious landmarks like the pyramids of Giza or the Greek Parthenon, acting as a way to harness the power infused within these sacred geometrical figures, as they understood that these symbols resonated a certain frequency that helped harmonize and balance the 2 hemispheres of our brain, satisfying both the masculine side for logic and objective observation through its crisp lines and edges, as well as the feminine side's desire for random and intuitive flow within its intricate design, helping them come together in unison to complete the puzzle of the human psyche, forming the ultimate vehicle needed for the ascension and evolution of our consciousness. Now, in the more modern times we live in today, this concept has carried on over to the methods used in the Fibonacci sequence, aka the golden ratio, a divine proportion seen all throughout nature, from the Nautilus shell, the Milky Way, to even the structure of our own DNA, that perfectly captures the serene essence of sacred geometry within its infinite spiral.
It's a most remarkable shape. It can mathematically reproduce itself indefinitely. All these rectangles have exactly the same proportions. This figure also contains a magic spiral that repeats the proportions of the golden section into infinity.
And this has trickled down over to some of the most iconic pieces of art in human history, most notably in the works of Leonardo da Vinci, as he was a reflection of the true Renaissance man who was well informed of the sacred and arcane wisdom of these universal patterns, using them in his artwork to unlock a whole new level of focus and attention to detail, while also leaving little signs and signals for those of us who are on the search for these higher dimensional truths of life.
Gee, Mr. Spirit, guess I got more to mathematics than 2 times 2.
All in all though, man, at the end of the day, when you really break it down, the most important lesson you can take away from studying sacred geometry is that even with all the random chaos and complexity of the universe, all things can still be traced back down to the basic set of lines and angles that encrypt the cosmic code of our reality, as the nature of life is merely just a mold being mapped out by this matrix, following a continuous flow of shapes and patterns that forms everything in our existence, from the order of physical matter to even the more subtle and spiritual energies that surround it. So hell, man, I don't know about you, but to me it is clearly evident to see that all of this is simply just one big math equation, and the cheat sheet needed to pass this exam is found within the knowledge and information contained within these sacred signs and symbols, giving us a deeper understanding into the universal language of life.